So humans. In the year 2000, we had just survived Y2K, and I had just started at Netflix. And it wasn't Netflix as that Netflix yet. It was this Netflix still. We were still a very small company. It was by no means certain that we were going to succeed. And there was still this 800-pound gorilla in the space called Blockbuster. So we were still up against it. And you would think at that time that all the leadership would be diverting all of the money that they possibly could, all the resources, all the effort, all of the concentration toward fighting that 800-pound gorilla and winning that battle. But what we actually found was that Reed Hastings and the rest of the leadership team were investing research and development funds and effort into what we were then calling set-top boxes, which was the predecessor to streaming as we now know it. So remember, we said this is 2000. Roku didn't come out as a standalone set-top box player until 2006. And Netflix didn't have a dedicated streaming plan until 2007. And this is the better part of a decade ahead before we're seeing the results of what we're seeing come out. And then, of course, we become Netflix over time. And what I know about what you all do is that it's not DVD rental. I get that. What I know about that, though, is that you still need to have vision. You still need to think about the future. You still need to think as far ahead and as pragmatically and as integratively as you can to be able to anticipate the kinds of decisions that are appropriate to make, that are safe to make, that are good to make, that are going to keep you from not having made the right decisions in the future. The future is hard. What I hear from my clients, and my clients are Fortune 100 executives and cities and organizations around the world, they say that the future is looking uncertain. But here, let's unpack what the future is. And we can talk a little bit about what it is we mean when we talk about the future. And I think that you'll come around to seeing what I see, that it isn't so uncertain after all. And in order to do that, what we need to do is prepare you for the conversation that the next few days will bring. What I'm hoping is that you're going to take these insight models and make better and better decisions as you face every decision that comes along in your future. To start, let's unpack what the future isn't. Because so much of what we've been talking about the future, through culture and literature, and I guess when I say culture and literature, I mostly mean science fiction, we've been taught to think about the future one of two ways: dystopia or utopia. And what do we also know about this dichotomy? Utopia is not on the table. No one believes that utopia is going to happen. No one believes that every decision is going to be made so perfectly right that we're going to be living in this ideal world. That's a terrible way to think about the future. What we need, hopefully you'll agree with me, is we need a way to talk about the future that is optimistic. We want to be able to be, thinking hopefully about what can happen in the future, that is at the same time relentlessly and resiliently strategic, that is intellectually rigorous, that challenges us to bring all of our assets and resources to bear, to make those good decisions the better part of a decade ahead or whatever it is, that allows us to think that way about what could we do and how will we get there. So I'm going to tell you what the future is. I'll give you a new model, a new way of thinking, hopefully a more empowering way to think about the future. Ready? The future is the time ahead of us. We got that, right? And it is at least partly knowable or predictable because it is at least partly shaped or determined by the actions and decisions we've already taken, and more importantly, those we're about to take today. Right? You want me to do that again? Yeah, OK. The future is just the time in front of us, and is at least partly knowable or partly predictable because it is at least partly shaped or determined by the actions and decisions that we have already taken, and more importantly, those we're about to take today. What I propose to you is that if the future feels uncertain, if you feel like you cannot get a grasp on what's coming and how to make decisions about the very, very variable future that you see ahead of you, it's possibly because your approach to the future isn't strategic enough. You aren't bringing enough of a rigorous, well-balanced, integrative approach. or not optimistic enough, or both. This is what I wrote about in A Future So Bright, strategic optimism. It's this idea of saying, hey, look, we understand that there are harms and risks that could happen. We need to have our arms around those. We absolutely need to understand what those are and make plans and mitigate those. And we need to understand what it is we're working toward. What do we hope for? What do we want to have happen? What can we prepare for that's actually good? What's on the good side of that wide spectrum of possibilities? And how can we be rigorous and strategic about approaching all of it? Instead of always only planning for what's bad, let's plan for what's good. Let's think ahead to what we know we need to do next. What we know about emerging and evolving technologies is that they are going to bring capacity and scale like we've never seen before. We're seeing that now with generative AI. How can we be sure we're bringing the best of humanity into those decisions? And then how does that help us prepare for this tech-driven future? We can think about meaning as being about what matters and innovation as being about what is going to matter. So that's like a two-part lens that we can use to assess anything. Say what matters and what's going to matter about the situation. We need to be thinking about what's going to matter. And it's going to challenge us. One eye on what matters now and one eye on what matters in the future. Humans cannot leave meaning up to machines to determine. That is our specialty. That is what we do. That is what we are good at. For now. Maybe AI will surpass us in the future, but for the time being, we're the ones who get this. You get it. I get it. We all get it. We have to bring this model to the work that we do. And we have to make sure that our organizations and the technologies that we build respect this human-centric reality, that we are looking for what matters. And we want it to be built as dimensionally into those experiences as it possibly can. When we think about the roadmap for how to do this at scale, there is one tool I like to leave people with. When I think about how the Sustainable Development Goals meet this conversation, and if you're not familiar, by the way, these 17 goals were created in 2015 with the aim of having measurable improvements by 2030 along things like gender equality, clean water and sanitation, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities. What I find is that every single company has at least one of these goals that they already align with organically, that they're already trying to bring product or service into the market in alignment with. What's cool is, when you think about AI and emerging and evolving technologies, that you can also think about the ways that they can further these goals. So these are all actual proofs of concept that I've been collecting over the years, and I've color-coded them to be in the same color as the goal to which they correspond. But you've got maximize clean water availability, or combat human trafficking, or enhance air quality. All of these things are actually in play right now with AI. And you can think of so many more, so many different kinds of technological opportunities to further what's good for humanity. Because if we're not trying to solve human problems at scale right now, what are we even doing? We have to be thinking this way. And we have to solve the little problems too. It's both and. It's not going to make any sense not to take it that way. And that is this last insight model, tech humanism. That's at the intersection, by the way, of thinking about what our business objectives are, what the human outcomes are, and what the technological capabilities that undergird that are. When you look at the intersection of those, you find that's tech humanism. That's where purposeful, meaningful human experiences at scale can really flourish. Really align the priorities and the experiences that you're creating with what matters for people, what's going to matter, and how we can think about that at scale as we think into the future, this future that we know we're creating with every action and decision we take. So that's the human first approach. That's saying, hey, look, we know we need to be aligned with meaning because that's the human condition. We know we need to use organizational strategic purpose, that distillation of what it is we're about and what we're trying to do at scale. We know we need to be thinking about human thriving when it meets scale, and how we can do that is thinking about the SDGs or any other model that really helps us rigorously think about what it is that we can do that meets the future in a way that is both strategic and optimistic. Nothing short of that is really appropriate for the moment that we're in. And for that, I really appreciate you all having me here and creating this better future that I know you all are going to create. Thank you so much. Thank you.